Welcome to Texas Today. I'm Kristen Dickerson. It can be easy to get distracted from achieving our goals. Whether it's physical exhaustion or lacking self-confidence, you can experience burnout. But there are ways to free yourself from these challenges. Peak performance expert and best-selling author Dr. Delatorro McNeil II is back with tips on how we can defeat burnout. It is so good to see you in person.
Honored to be here.
Like, you're here to change my life.
Yes,
Dr.
absolutely.
Delatorro.
Yes, we're going to do it.
Let's talk about burnout. What are we talking about? What is burnout?
So this is really, really important, right? Because the World Health Organization has literally, in its 11th revision of the International Classification of Diseases, has listed burnout as a disease.
Whoa, that's serious. That's legit. This is a thing.
It's a thing. So we have to look at burnout literally as the candle that's completely out of wax. No matter how much you try to light that wick, there's just nothing left. We got to look at burnout as if we're out of gas in the vehicle of life, and we're literally riding on fumes. And so we have to acknowledge the importance of understanding that, listen, I'm burned out. And here's a couple of ways you know that you're kind of burned out. When you achieve things and you feel lackluster about your achievement, even though you've put all this work and effort into it, you're burned out. You also know when you're burned out when no matter how much sleep you get, you still feel tired and exhausted. Yeah, that's another great sign that you're burned out. And so one of the things that I really encourage people to do is make sure that you're living a lifestyle that prevents you from getting to that place where you're burned out.
Okay, and how do we do that? Is that just taking care of yourself on the daily before things build up and you're like at a breaking point?
So, and for me, one of the things that I love to do is I believe that if we can maneuver around the pothole of overwhelm, it will help us with the pothole of burnout.
And what's the difference between the two? Between being overwhelmed, and
so I want you to think about overwhelm as that rubber band that you're trying to fit around too many documents. You know how we like stretch the rubber band to put around all these folders? Or it's almost like putting way too much stuff in the automobile of your life, and you got way too much luggage in there. It's too much to carry.
Carrying all that crap around.
And 9 times out of 10, that's what we're doing. We have too many, metaphorically, we have too many screens open, right? Overwhelm is when you're just constantly putting too much on your plate without clearing things off your plate that no longer belong. Before you set any type of goal, the first thing that you need is room. You need space. And 9 times out of 10, what we do is we go in with all these, I want to accomplish this, I want to achieve that, but we don't take a look at what our plate already proverbially has on it and get rid of what no longer serves us and what we no longer need. The 3 reasons why we experience overwhelm is, number 1, every one of us, whether we want to acknowledge it or not, have a PhD from the University of I can do it all by myself.
I got this.
Right? So a lot of us do it alone. And the problem with doing it alone is that you have no support, you have no encouragement, you have no backing. So it's vitally important that we get out of I can do it all by myself. And the number 1 reason why we don't delegate is because we don't really trust other people to execute at the level that we really, so we delegate it for 10 minutes, and if they don't do a good job in those 10 minutes, like, I'll take that back and finish it myself, right? And we have to understand, and if you're taking notes, write this down, anything that's worth doing is worth doing badly, until we can get it right.
Oh, I love that. I experienced a bad case of burnout in 2019, and it took me leaving my job and my husband and I literally walking across the country. And at week 3 of walking, it felt like a dirty lens had been wiped from my eyes. And there was a moment of, I was really burned out.
That's it.
That's not necessarily an option for everybody,
people,
right? So what are some ways that we can deal with burnout if we know we've already gotten there?
Immediately practice radical self-care. Really begin to start to pour into yourself each and every single day. Pouring into yourself looks a lot like taking time for yourself, really practicing like tub time, meditation time, right? Yoga time, exercise, getting some time in the sunshine, really taking the right supplements, taking care of your physical body, going on regular staycations or vacations to continue to pour into yourself and give yourself a break from the norm. Doing new things. Did you know that every time you do something new, your brain, you literally are doing brain surgery on yourself? According to neuroscience, every time you learn a new skill, you are literally creating new neural pathways in the brain. And I know a lot of people during the pandemic went through a lot of stress. One of the things that I did during the pandemic to self-care was I learned salsa, I learned bachata, I did all these things, and my therapist said, listen, do you realize that you avoided depression during the pandemic because you were constantly teaching yourself new skills?
Whoa.
So I think that's another thing that we can do to avoid burnout and overwhelm is get out of our normal routine of always doing things the same way.
Yes.
If you drive home the same way every day, try some different routes,
Yes.
right? If you're always doing the same thing every weekend, switch it up. Shift from how you always do things to doing things in a different way.
Yes, and trusting that life can be better.
Oh my
But
gosh.
the situation you're in right now, it can always be better.
Exactly. Another thing that will keep us from overwhelm and burnout is learning to say no, Kristen.
Oh, amen. That's hard.
That's hard for especially every one of us who is high achievers, which we're all high achievers, right? We love to say yes to people. And 9 times out of 10, the reason why we say yes is because we grow up being people pleasers because at some point in our childhood, there was a lack of validation. So we grow up saying, okay, I don't want to upset people. I don't want to disappoint people. So let me say yes to folks. And it's good for them, but it's horrible for you.
Especially if it doesn't fill you up.
Exactly.
If it just takes.
If it's just, hello, right? You know where this is going, right?
Yeah.
Leeches don't have boundaries, so we must. It's vitally important if we want to remove overwhelm and burnout from our regular agenda.
Yeah.
It's vitally important that we understand that the people around us really have to be monitored. Every day we're in the people management business. And we're managing the individuals and the relationships in our life, whether they're work relationships, personal relationships, or professional relationships. And we have to set healthy boundaries because leeches don't have boundaries. Parasitic people just pull and pull and pull. And when they wear you out, they go to the next person.
Dr. Delatorro McNeil, it is so good to see you in person.
Thank you so much.
Every time I see you, I'm like, life changed, done. For real. I'm setting boundaries starting now.
That's right. Yes, so vitally important.
So good to see you. To purchase a copy of Shift into a Higher Gear, go to Amazon.com. And to learn more about Dr. Delatorro McNeil, including booking him for a keynote speech, you should do that if you're looking for one. Go online to Delatorro.com. And of course, you can follow him on social media at Dr. Delatorro.